So if somebody's really blocked and they're not connected and the skin is very tough and, dry and impacted, I'm not going to spend time giving them a vitamin A, which this will lead us in talking to about all the prescriptions regarding retinols and retin-A's and how this is, the magic anti-aging ingredient. But if their skin's not ready for collagen renewal, I'm not going to give them ingredients for collagen renewal.
Welcome to the Exercise is Health podcast, where we're talking about exercise, health, and the interconnectedness of the two. We are your hosts, Charlie
and Julie,
and we will be coming to you every single week from our studio, Muscle Activation Schaumburg. Hey, welcome back, everybody, to the Exercise is Health podcast. We are your hosts, Charlie
and Julie,
and we are coming to you from our studio, Muscle Activation Schaumburg in Schaumburg, Illinois. Now, at Muscle Activation Schaumburg, we believe your health is your most valuable asset. Your health is one of the biggest influencers of the quality and quantity of time that you have. And while there are many aspects of health, our expertise is exercise. Exercise has been proven time and again to not only improve your health, but also increase your longevity and improve your quality of life. But we know that exercise is not the only piece of the puzzle, and that is why we are bringing you a phenomenal guest today, none other than Melissa Armstrong. Melissa Armstrong is a global skin wellness coach who has helped thousands of clients achieve healthy skin naturally. She owns Cleanse and Truth Skincare with her husband, located in Inverness, Illinois, across from Harper College. Through this skincare clinic, she works with male and female clients of nearly all ages, performing advanced healing holistic organic custom skin treatments, i.e. not your conventional facial, and providing individual functional skin education while personally formulating and handcrafting organic skincare products for each client's individual skin needs. She is a volunteer mentor on an acne clearing forum membership academy known as the Love Vitamin, created by Tracy Raftel. Melissa began her teaching career teaching skin cancer prevention for world-renowned surgical dermatologists over a decade ago, and is now sought globally for her holistic skincare methods, techniques, and vast knowledge on functional skin repair and renewal. Clients fly in to experience her customized, authentic approach to skin healing. She is a visionary who helped grow the green, holistic, organic skincare movement from its infancy, and she is only beginning. As a former severe depression and acne sufferer, she knows firsthand the emotional toll skin issues can have on one's confidence. She is on a mission to help free people from skin issues so they can feel comfortable with themselves by releasing any cover-ups or fallacies surrounding their inner and outer healing. Melissa, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to our show.
I'm so happy to be here with the dynamic duo. So
we are so excited to have you. That bio is amazing. I want to unpack that from top to bottom, but start us off. How did you get into your line of work now? Because this sounds fascinating.
It really is a fascinating story, and it is a depth-filled story. From the time I was 2 years old, I went through sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse. So pretty much from the time of infancy, I was taught fear. And not the fear like I'm afraid of a bee stinging me, but I finally quit going to psychologists and counselors because I realized I can heal myself. I would go to counselors for the first time and they would say, "Why are you here?" And then within just a few moments of telling them experiences I'd been through, their jaw would drop. Like, how are you even standing here from the trauma and the abuse and just the, they're known as life interruptive events, where it actually triggers trauma in the brain, where somebody could tap me on the shoulder to this day and I will freeze. So it's a cellular trauma within the body. So that being the starting point of my life, it was a tough go. It was a very tough go. I lost myself from a very young age. I never knew her, but I will say that I guess there's a strength in there that I'm now discovering, and I'm impressed by you guys because you're so young, but you have this vision and this strength. And so somebody like me, I've had to spend the majority of my life uncovering that, and as I call it, digging myself out of a hole, realizing I'm in the hole, digging myself out of the hole. So along this process, I developed severe depression, diagnosed by a clinical psychologist at 9. I was on medications, right? I had stomach issues, or I'll just say I never felt well as a little girl, but nobody understood and nobody took it seriously. And because of what I went through, everything was just kept inside. So I started to develop acne. I was about 15, and I think more than the acne, the dry patches bothered me. I just had dry patches, I had redness, I had acne bumps, and right then and there, I was addicted unhealthily to skincare, right? One of those stories. So I'm trying everything and anything. I'm up in the middle of the night because I'm not going to value my sleep, nor do I know that there's a value there. And I'm taking my mom's card and I'm ordering skincare. This is no exaggeration. And I would try everything. And of course, I didn't know this at the time. I was making my skin worse. I didn't know how or why, but it was becoming worse. So I struggled through high school. I struggled through school. In this depression, I had some friends, but I was pretty much just jealous of everybody because I saw that there was happiness, but I didn't understand. I couldn't relate to it because I'd never seen it firsthand. So I just went through life depressed with acne. My grades started to suffer dramatically, starting as a straight A student to failing chemistry, right? And then I somehow made it through, high school, graduation, and I've always been a hard worker. So since 15, I was also having these just various jobs. I started to go to school for psychology. I was living with my mom at the time in a mobile home in Linwood, about the size of this room. And I was at my worst. I racked up about $20,000 in credit card debt from depression. I was trying to pay through college for myself. And then one day I just quit. I just quit school. Professors were calling me like, what are you doing? We know you have potential. No, I was unreachable. So my sister and her husband met with me. My sister's 7 years older than me. They had a meeting with me at my favorite restaurant, Applebee's, at the time. And they said, here's a check for $600. We're getting you out of here and you're coming to live with us. So that started me sort of on an emancipation from myself. So I quit school, right? Because I got a job at a mortgage industry where the timeline's amazing because I met my now husband. Awesome. He saw me, he asked me out. I was who I was. I was like depressed and scared and shy in like this corporate place. And so I said no, because I thought he was like making fun of me. I didn't believe that he liked me. And so he asked me out for about 6 months. And I said no. And then he quit paying attention to me, and then I was like, wait a minute. But I met my now husband there, and I had some really serious life lessons to learn while I was there, and so my skin was the worst it had ever been. I mean, just bad, acne infomercial bad. And so I was still at the mortgage company, a part of a subprime lending company, and I just enrolled myself into aesthetic school. And this is big news because I was taught I didn't even have a thought for myself, if that makes sense. There was just, I didn't know I had a voice in there because I wasn't allowed to talk. I would get literally beat up, okay? So I had no voice. So I enrolled in aesthetic school. And I'm going to say the rest is history because you start, after a couple weeks, you start doing sign-offs to get, just like your practice, right? So after two weeks in, I had my first facial. And if I look back now, I gave a Reiki facial. I didn't know what it was. But what I realized is in this dark room, right, for the first time in my life, I was safe. And I think that's what did it. Because if I look back, I wasn't safe. I was at school and I would space out because I didn't know what was going to happen at home. That's how my life was. And so for me to do this big step, and then I came alive. I just absolutely came alive. And I learned what I learned about skin functionality. I will say minimally. I think it's just very minimal education. You get kind of like, okay, you get this licensure. And so what happened is there was many things that I didn't agree with, but I didn't have the basis yet to compare it to something. So what happened quickly though is I excelled. Finally, I excelled at school. But 2 weeks in, I got a job working for dermatologists because I wanted my resume to show that I was already at I was already in the industry. Not that I'm coming out of school, but hey, I'm experienced, right? So I started this, this experience with world-renowned cancer removal surgeons, and very quickly I was a medical prep, seeing like holes in people's faces as they're getting skin cancer removed. But what I was taught or told is that the sun accounts for 90% of aging, and I believed it. And since I was a big tanner when I was younger, I was like, okay, so I think that kind of saved my skin a little bit. But the doctors joked that I had a crash course in medical school, and when they realized how much information I could retain, these doctors were supposed to be presenting these lectures to these big companies and organizations. They sent me.
Wow.
Early 20s, and I look like
Very
I'm
cool.
12 now, so go back, and literally these faces at me are like, you're going to present to us. And I did, and I nailed it, and then I got bigger and more well known with these presentations that I was teaching about skin cancer prevention. And then on the other side of things, I started selling, just amazing amounts of skincare product for the doctors, making them lots of money. And I got very booked for, as a medical esthetician. And then one woman came in and she had a reaction to a hypoallergenic product. And I couldn't understand that. So this starts my ingredient research. For the first time, I look up an ingredient profile because you're told this is going to help sensitive skin, and that's all you know. So there's this surface advertising
Sure.
on skincare products and sales, and the pharmaceutical rep comes in and she teaches you the 3 main ingredients of the product, and this is how you sell it. And you say, what size do you want to buy? And here's your size, and this is what you get, and this is what it's going to do with these 3 main ingredients, right? So I researched, and I discovered in one of the products, just a high prestige product, petrolatum. And I didn't know what that was. And so that started me on this blog of where I, for like several years of my very early career, I was an ingredient research specialist. I'm like investigating the FDA. And
Sure.
I actually wrote a blog one time about the FDA, and I was anonymously contacted saying, you have to take this down immediately.
Really?
Wow. So I did. And then I kind of went a different route. But so what I discovered is that what they're selling is fear-based hype. And because I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I think what I've been through, I'm a very emotional, sensitive person. If I'm lying, you're going to know it, and my body's going to know it. So once I started discovering what was real versus fallacy, I wasn't okay with it. So discovering that petroleum jelly is in high-end product where it's, you would spend $1 for Vaseline, and they're putting that in a high-end product. Sure. Where, I mean, these products were 1 ounce for $150 that I'm selling. So think about that. So I wasn't okay with that. So the women started coming to me, men started coming to me, and I started researching ingredients outside of the dermatology office that I believed in. And that's actually how I got really booked up, is they're like, oh, well, she's obviously telling the truth because she's sending me elsewhere to get product. I eventually had my baby girl, my firstborn. She's now 8, and she came 3 weeks early. And I say it's like a miracle that she came, because it was blood, sweat, and tears there. It was a harsh working environment. So it kind of hardened me and strengthened me, and it taught me functional skin education. And then I took it beyond that, because I was like, okay, well, I want to go deeper. And I think since I was born, there's a depth to me that I had to keep hidden. So this poured out into my work. And then I left there. I started our skincare company 2 weeks after she was born in Schaumburg den office. So it was just, bifold doors and hold my baby while you get your facial, that type of thing. And now it's grown immensely, which is incredible. So I quit teaching skin cancer prevention, and I started teaching classes, the truth behind the skincare industry, and that got a lot of it got a lot of exposure. My first year teaching and educating, I was part of the best teachers, which was really exciting. It was like this little mini award for me. It was like this little victory.
That's awesome.
So fast forward, my business has been growing exponentially. Nobody works for us. It's just me and my husband. And so as a solo esthetician, I've built a business from nothing to something. And I will say that it's been this inner voice within me to follow. And so that's really what's carried me to where I am today. So as you can see, clearish skin. And there's a passion there, because I wasn't okay with the fallacy and the hype. And so I kept digging, knowing, okay, well, I know I can clear myself. I know I can help other people. So if that kind of gives you more of a background on me, that's what I'll start off with.
That's amazing. What I want to go back to is that moment when you were in the mortgage industry and you decided to enroll in esthetician school. And what made you go down the path of skincare? Because a lot of people have skin that they're not happy with, but not everybody enrolls, to become an esthetician. So what was that thing that kind of flipped the switch in your head that, yes, this was the thing that you needed to do for yourself?
I didn't even think about it. I think I could call it a divine download, where it was kind of like working through me and it just happened. So I was this vessel body just going through the motions and doing it.
Had it ever been of interest to you prior to enrolling? Like, was it something that you contemplated for a year or so before?
Actually, it's been... it has. My mom's first cousin is an esthetician, and she has probably at least 30 years in the industry. So I had that
model. Yeah,
I did. And I don't think I quite understood aesthetics or even dermatology, because I'd never seen a dermatologist for anything in my entire life, right? Friends went to dermatologists for their skin. It just wasn't something my family did. We didn't do that.
Sure.
I will say I think it was just like more of an inner calling, but I wasn't connected to it until that moment of desperation. But I was also looking for makeup artist training because I wanted to cover my acne. And this so-called school had a makeup certification. So I was like, okay, if I can't fix this, I at least want to cover it while getting some in-depth knowledge was my hope.
Very interesting.
Well, it seemed like as soon as you got there, you kind of knew, like, wow, this is the first time I've had a safe space where I'm like, I can handle myself and feel like confident. Tell us about how you got rid of your acne. I mean, you shared how at the mortgage company it was the worst, and then
your skin looks great.
Yeah, you have great skin.
It looks fantastic.
Thank you.
Yes. So, what was that journey like of taking care of your own skin?
When I had my first Reiki session, okay, so what the heck is Reiki? So you have the different ancient Eastern therapies and modalities, right? And so it's where you are acknowledging there is a holistic, with a W-H, holistic, not H, a holistic approach to healing the body. And if we just talk about the main chakras, okay, of the energy centers along the spine, they communicate with each other. So it's your body's communicating with each other. If you have a headache, it's actually communicating to every cell in your body. So it's treating the body as a whole. And this goes back again, more of the positive light of when I was growing up, is I learned meditation when I was 8 years old. And then I was reading Wayne Dyer and Deepak Chopra at 8 years old. So here it comes of, this inner light or this spirituality path within me is I'm not reading conventional kids books, which I was reading A Wrinkle in Time over and over again, but I was called to it. And since I didn't have anybody really so much paying attention to me, I didn't know what was right, what was wrong, what was weird, what didn't make sense. And so my mom had lots of self-help books and I read them all. And so at 8 years old, I was meditating. I had my first, what I will call, out-of-body experience. I didn't know, I guess I say I didn't know because I didn't know it was like weird, or nobody talks about this, or nobody meditates when you're, in 1990, right? Or maybe they do. So I will say that carried me, because my entire life since 8 years old, I've been meditating, which means I've been going inward and connecting to something. I'm going to call it an inner voice is what I'll call it. So let's fast forward at the same level. Somehow this internal healing that I'm going through, or just kind of opening myself up, every time I would clear something within me, my facials would improve. Like people would see better results, or I would have this inner message. That's all I can call it, is an inner message, where I could call it God, I could call it themselves. I would be told what to say to that person from my heart to their heart. And then they would say, this was the most amazing facial I've ever had. Wow. And so that's how I could say Reiki was introduced now when I was 19. I was in college and I was working at a bank and I was working at Barnes & Noble, and this woman walked up with this Reiki book and I was like, what is it? What is it? And she was like, I'm a Reiki master. And I wanted to take the class, but life didn't really allow me, and I didn't have the confidence to say, hey lady, can you help me out here? I can't afford it. So what's amazing is I just told my husband the story last night. We couldn't sleep, we were talking, and I told him it was so sad because the class was going to start, this program, and I wanted to do it. I was called to do it, and I just stood outside the door while it was going on, right? So that was my first introduction to Reiki, and then Ayurveda, which again is treating the body as a whole. So I didn't end up attending. I got a book on it because I was so intrigued, and then when I was 29, I met my second Reiki master, and she looked in my eyes and she said, you are a warrior of light. And I just started bawling because that's all I did is I had all this emotion stuck, and she just looked right in my eyes, just the most angelic eyes you've ever seen. And she's a life mentor of mine now, Leanne Clarbor of Elemental Connections in Bloomingdale, life mentor, savior of mine. And she said, you are a warrior of light. And she gave me my first craniosacral, so energy work session. And she told me that night, she goes, do whatever your inner child wants. So I had the biggest platter of chicken Alfredo pasta that you can have, and it was delicious. The next morning, my cystic bumps were gone on my face.
Wow.
Okay,
That's
so
crazy.
That's where I discovered something's happening. There's something deeper here. It's clearing the emotional energy. I call it an energy, right? Because we're made of energy. The sun is energy. So I want to go to the energy level of the source of the trapping, because if I have an emotional thought of negativity, this is my philosophy and my methods is I acknowledge that it creates a cellular blockage, right? So if we're in pain, it's because there's trapped blood usually, right? Inflammation. So within the body, there's going to be inflammation, trapped cells, trapped debris. And so what I discovered is by doing this first Reiki session when I was 29, it was clearing the cellular debris. And since I had the meditation, I wasn't really afraid of that. That's how I started to heal when I discovered that chicken Alfredo pasta, which my gut wasn't in very good health, and I didn't know that at the time. And I didn't break out from eating the dairy, which usually impacts me. I just said, okay, there's something to this. And so the inner calling increased. And then again, without acknowledging, without advertising it, I poured my heart even more so now, because it's actually opening into my client sessions and discovering about skincare product. And then that's where that's going to be another story here. So that just took on a whole life of its own. So that's how I started to clear my skin, is letting go of past cellular memory, transforming it into what I will call its truth, because I've been raised in mistruth about who I am, what I'm capable of. I was told that I will amount to nothing. And by doing that, I think it clears the pathways and these blockages, which then allows for renewal, which is just new blood, right? You guys understand new blood is new food, new blood is new cells. And so by creating new food, new energy, new cells, it pushes out the old. And it has been almost a decade personally of that path for me.
What's really interesting is, like, when I think of skincare, especially before I met you, and I think we met probably a year ago or something, I thought of like, oh, you see something on your skin, try not to touch it, but everyone knows me, I gotta touch it a million times, pop it, cover it with makeup, hopefully it goes away in a couple days, and we kind of almost think of it as like literally like very surface level. I mean, it's on the surface of our skin, and then some people discuss like, oh, it's because you're stressed out, or you're eating dairy, or why don't we clean that up, or because your gut health, and so I think like the industry has gotten maybe to that point of like, okay, clean up your lifestyle, maybe your skin gets better. But I feel like you've kind of taken us to the next level, and through almost like mistake discovery, or maybe your calling, or whatever was speaking to you and drawing you in. How the heck do you educate clients on this? Because it's very difficult. I mean, you're kind of working like how Charlie and I work in the fitness industry, like kind of going against the grain and teaching a lot deeper, and how almost like their body's energy can influence what's going on with the skin. How do you educate with that?
some people are ready for that when they find me. Some people have no idea what I do. Some people see, 100 positive reviews, and then they're like, okay, I trust her. I just want this. Just show me what to do. Tell me what to do. I'll do it. While others are very skeptical. They've been jaded. Their skin is, I have this 1 to 10 scale that I use. So they might feel a 0 out of 10 about how they feel about their skin, which will give you an idea visually of how it may look. So I start with ingredient education, and then it goes into skin function education. And it does expand over time because you can't really educate, a lifetime of research and education and inner wisdom and insights within one session, right? So anybody who's going to work with me, I explain, we're going to start with initial fundamental education, and then it's going to expand from there on your readiness and your willingness. Because you can talk to somebody, but if they're not open, nothing's going to get in, right? So it's just a waste of energy, a waste of time for them. They might get frustrated because they're not understanding the concepts or the fundamentals. So I call it fundamental skin education, which we are not taught. I wasn't even taught it in aesthetic school. There, I said it. I wasn't even taught fundamental skin education in aesthetic school to the point of the functionality. You learn anatomy, and you learn this product is for oily skin. This product is for dry skin. You get certified in these advanced, like treatments for pretty much, peeling off the barrier of the skin, which is in the long run is really not beneficial. So you're trained on what I will call is surface. It's a surface education. And since, again, you understand, I was never geared towards that. I don't think I'm wired for service. And I used to think I was weird and I didn't fit in, but I kind of fit in because I created my company, right? And people want that. Some people, the people who are finding me and my clients, they want to go deeper. And so I think it comes with a willingness and a readiness of the client who I'm working with. And also when you've tried anything and everything and you've been down the paths that just were a given that they weren't going to work, but you didn't know it at the time, or maybe your gut did. You're like, oh, I'm going to do this anyway, even though I know it's not going to work. You're actually crossing out these options of no, fail, to, okay, there is a right way for you and for your healing and for your body. And so by getting rid of all the curiosity of all the stuff, I think it makes people more receptive and ready to say, okay, show me what to do. And I'll do it because I've been so low and I know I've tried so-called everything that I'm ready to try something new. So kind of like take me deeper. Yeah. So that's what I'll say.
It's interesting what you described with like, oh, we have this product for oily skin. We have this product for teens. We have this product for dry skin. So in the fitness industry, Charlie and I see that as well. We call it the Pez dispenser. So there's like, 50 options and hopefully you fit in one of them. Right.
Right.
Instead of saying like, hey, you're a unique human and you have your unique components and we create exercise custom. You create, a physical product called skincare. This is what you're going to put on your face or whatever. And I've created it custom for you. I just think that's really, really cool. How do you do that? Because I know I visited your place. You have like a little lab in your back where you're making stuff. And how do you create that? And how did you learn how to do that?
It started intuitively, which I know sounds scary. It was within me. But when I was searching, going back to that ingredient research time, and I worked for a couple different places, just trying to find my way, and I started blending ingredients with brands that were pre-made, or I would mix pre-branded products, right, pre-boxed products. And then I had this vision of where a client actually ignited this, I will say. When I told her my dilemma, she became a very close friend of mine and facial client. And so I was hopeless. I was desperate. And I was like, I know what I'm selling is not good. I'm putting it on the face. I don't believe in it. I don't feel good about what I'm doing. And she just said, Melissa, can't you just make it for me? And there it went.
Yeah.
There it went. So I researched. I found holistic, organic manufacturers to spend hundreds of dollars that I saved right in my early 20s to find. They send me my product, and then it had the junk in it. And I call junk as in the petrochemicals, the plastics, the harsh preservatives that hurt our gut microbiome and our skin microbiome. And I was deflated, right? And then I just started playing. I absolutely started playing and researching herbalism, aromatherapy. And what's amazing is because of the life that I've been just handed, right? We didn't have a lot of money. I didn't have a lot of money. I couldn't just go travel to these, beautiful trainings in some country or, just across the states. They would find me. So next thing you know, I'm getting trained for aromatherapy and herbalism and manual lymphatic drainage. And so I just think that's incredible. And I think that has something to do with showing somebody or myself the true power you have if you want something. And even if I don't know the depth that I want it. So I feel like my heart was just opening and things were just pouring into me. I say the universe kept hitting me on the forehead because okay, here's your next level. Here's your next level. So it comes with a lot of self-study and obsession with research and finding what didn't fit me. I just threw it out and then I taught myself. So really that's how it starts. But then over the years, I did get trained on an online really intensive program from Formula Botanica. Just incredible company and vision with this woman where it's organic biochemistry and it is to the core. And so I submersed myself into that for years while I was pregnant with my second boy. And so now I'm going even more advanced in it just so I can do it right, because I'm not comfortable selling something, telling you something, educating if it doesn't fit at the core level where I don't want any inkling of self-doubt that I'm misinforming, right? So that's how that started, and then it just expanded from there. And there's so much support and resources out there for the organic industry, or they're starting to open that up. And I started at a time with it before it wasn't well known. It's starting to become almost like a niche, right, within the industry. And so it's called the Dark Green Beauty Movement, that I'm a part of this holistic group, association, coalition of these estheticians, body workers, mindful practitioners, where we're treating the body as a whole. And I didn't know it at the time that I was growing this within my small business, and now we're banding together, and it's going to be huge.
That's really cool. So Melissa, how do you determine what ingredients should go in for a certain client, or what products to build for a certain client? What's kind of that process like? You
have to know the plant, the herb, the oil, the constituents that they're created in, and what they're going to do. I stopped skin typing. I stopped using the UV lamp where, it shows you, just underneath the skin so you can see the quote sun damage. I stopped doing all of that because to me it was just kind of a fallacy where I could feel and I could see intuitively what the skin needs and where it's trapped. So for me, there's no other way other than, okay, I do have the scientific backing and the research and the education in my brain, but there is an intuitive aspect where I'm in that blending room and boom, 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 things are flying off the shelf where it's being called to me what they need.
Very neat. How many ingredients do you have in your blending room that you can pull from? Is it a handful? Is it hundreds?
It's
what are we talking about here?
Over 200. And I'm trying to pare it down with my husband, but I'm really, really stubborn. So I'm like, somebody might need this rice bran as opposed to cranberry seed oil. Sure. And so I have created a method that's not out yet, and it will be soon. So it's my method that I teach one-on-one globally and locally. And I call it the 4-phase skin renewal process. And so I've created 4 phases of skin renewal where somebody comes to me and they're trapped and they're inflamed and they're irritated. And you might not see it on the surface, but they might have that trap beneath the surface. And so the goal is to get them to 100% full rate of collagen renewal, because when your collagen is 100%, all the other conditions that might cause skin concerns or imbalances or, presentations will be in full functioning as well. So if we're at a full rate of collagen renewal, phase 4 from stagnation over here, my scales, we're going to start with ingredients that are anti-inflammatory and they're non-stimulating. And this is so important. I bet you guys can relate to this. If you stimulate the skin before it's ready, it's going to trap. It's not actually going to renew. So if you're trying to push for new, but the old is in the way, it's not going to work. So you have to get rid of the old and then bring in the new. And so ingredients, either all over the world, grown locally in, Wisconsin, Michigan, stuff like that, they're going to have their sourcing, and then they're going to have their chemical constituents. So what they're made up of, and those chemical constituents are going to have, now we can talk about key ingredients because they're going to have their key constituents. Is this for hydration? Is this for barrier repair? Is this anti-inflammatory? Is this a decongestant? Is this an actual emulsifier where it's helping to, bind product together naturally? So it's going to the key constituents of those products and then looking at the severity to superficiality of the condition that I'm working on and how receptive are the pores. Okay, so if somebody's really blocked and they're not connected and the skin is very tough and dry and impacted, I'm not going to spend time giving them a vitamin A, which this will lead us in talking to about all the prescriptions regarding retinols and retin-A's and how this is, the magic anti-aging ingredient. But if their skin's not ready for collagen renewal, I'm not going to give them ingredients for collagen renewal. We have to start over here with just basic barrier repair and hydration, and maybe starting to flush out, detox the cells, and bring in anti-inflammatories to push out old blood, right?
Yeah. No, that's awesome. So what's the kind of client experience like when they come to meet with you? Is it initial consultation, some kind of assessment involved? Early on, how frequently do you tend to meet with people? I'm guessing if somebody's flying in, you're not meeting with them, twice a week. But
yeah, they might pay for just a weekend with me.
Okay, sure. So yeah, what's kind of that process like? Let's say somebody's not flying in. Let's say they're more local here.
I do want to start with the education and assessment session because I say once you have the information and it resonates with you, it's empowering. And then in that moment, you can let go of all of that fallacy. Like, hey, all of this stuff hasn't worked. And I was told this about my skin, but it didn't feel right to me, or it didn't help, as you can see visually. So what I'm going to do is pretty much pull the veil off and say, okay, show me your products. Show me what you've been doing. Tell me about your skin. Tell me about the history and the journey of it. And now I'm going to tell you what I see at the starting point, my goal, and then I want to know what's your goal, and then we're going to put that together. So it starts with an in-depth education session as well as ingredient session, and then just kind of chatting, letting them get rid of their frustrations, because a lot of tears will come up in my clinic. It's a very safe space, and if you think about it or feel about it, we're taught to stuff our emotions, and I did that for so long for a little bit, but I'm such an emotional person, I can't do that. So when they come in, I even say, like, you might cry, and I could feel you're going to cry, and that's okay, because it's emotional to keep pretending that you don't feel pained about the way you look. And I think there's a pain about it, because if you're losing yourself and your true image of what your skin can look like, it alters your image and your perspective of yourself. And if you're altering your image, you're not seeing yourself, and you're actually disconnecting from yourself. You're lengthening this gap from you, who you are, and then who you think you are. So when people come into me, I'm going to close that gap to the amount of their readiness. It could take someone 7 years for a full collagen renewal, and it has, and it's still the results look magical. It could take someone where they only need to see me one session. They need one session to get their skin going and a couple good products, and they're done. So in the beginning, I do recommend some close sessions together. It could be several sessions within a few months, or weekly, but it really depends on what that person is ready for. Because if you're trapping pain, frustration, anger, these are emotions. And when you start doing the work with me, that's going to come out. And so with my level of training or talent, sometimes it can be cleared with just a few sessions. The skin starts responding immediately after that. And what I mean by responding is the tiny little plugs that have been trapped for years come out of the pores, and the skin's holding moisture again, and the collagen can start renewing. So for me, it's about how much renewal will you and the body allow, and how much can we guide towards that within one session?
And when clients are working with you, you kind of talked about, you kind of go through education in the beginning, and then I'm assuming, does it actually, people get on the table and you do a facial eventually, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So sorry. So usually it's a very, very in-depth first session, because it's going to be the assessment, the consultation. It's going to go into the ingredient education. Then we have a session, and then we put it all together. So it can be like extensive 2 to 2.5 hour first session. And a lot of people are really overwhelmed. But I think I am going to start giving the option, if somebody truly doesn't want the education and the assessment and they just want a facial, that if that's what they want, then I'll give that to them. But I can't turn off my Reiki. So I can't turn off the intuitive part. And really what that means is, you'll just be laying on the table, and you might feel the most peace you've ever felt in a long time, where you can't explain it. You can't quantify it. I can't put it into words when somebody feels, or what I feel they feel, because we're having differing experiences while we're still kind of aligning together. So it'll be different for everybody, but I think the reviews really, speak for themselves, and how busy I've gotten, and how people want me from all over the world, which that's fascinating to me.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
And during the facials, do you use your own products?
Yes.
Okay. Because I know when we met the first time, you were kind of sharing a little bit of your story with me, and you were like, isn't it crazy that like people can go get a facial and then, their skin is literally burned? And I was like, I never thought about it. I mean, I don't think about that stuff, but that is pretty crazy. So I'm sure your products are a lot higher quality than what you can find.
And so if
there.
you talk about burning, though, that has to do with pH and acidity, right? Because I was trained on medium depth and deep peels, where I would apply acetone and alcohol as the preppers to clients' skin, which I was told gets rid of oil. Not true. So, and then you would prep it with either laser resurfacing peels, where you could smell the burning flesh. Okay, so they're literally burning their flesh off, and with deep ingredients, right? Resorcinol, phenol, TCA, trichloroacetic acid, right? This is how I started my career, trained in this, and I did it because that's what I was taught. But I could only stand about 2 years before I was like, no, this isn't right. This isn't right. I'm not supposed to be doing this. So that's why I went out, and I was like, I'm going to do it my way, and here we are. So I started that way, and then I started to gravitate towards more, quote, organic peels and natural peels, only to learn that it's still the same thing. You don't need to peel your face off. It actually leads traumas in the cells. It holds cellular trauma and will cause scarring down the road, because you're damaging potential collagen stores, which is the main goal of any skincare. If anybody knows anything about fundamental education, is you want collagen. It makes up about 70% of our skin structure, and if your collagen's not forming, then other stuff isn't lining for proper function. So peeling and burning, that's going to come by, we can take lemon essential oil or grapefruit essential oil, or just actual grapefruit, right? And it has such a high acidity. Pineapple. I mean, how many pieces of pineapple can you eat before it eats through your skin tissue in your mouth? Okay? Right. So we can talk organic ingredients, like you're saying, but it's about the understanding the level and the depth of which the skin can handle, but learning that you really don't have to be aggressive. That's what I had to come away from, is that it doesn't have to be aggressive. It doesn't have to be invasive, because I feel our bodies were made in gentleness. And when you join it in that gentleness, it's like, oh, okay, you want this little bump to go away that's been there for 5 months? Okay, just acknowledge me. Come to my level of this level of peace and compassion. And then within a session or a couple of days, that bump starts to leave.
Very neat.
And I know in the beginning you said like a lot of skincare is based off like fear-based stuff, but I was just, as you were talking, I was thinking about like my limited education and exposure to skincare, and a lot of
everybody's limited education.
And a lot of the journey of people I know, especially if they're struggling with their skin, it's like the more aggressive, the more drawn to it they are, and they're trying everything. And I could imagine that it would be really scary to say, okay, put your benzoyl peroxide down, put your salicylic acid down, let's try something new.
Put your retin-A down.
Because you're thinking, I have to be using the most potent chemicals to cleanse my skin, and there's probably even more potent ones out there. Those are just the ones I know of. And you know, I'm like, literally I wipe my face and it bleaches my towel. Holy crap, that's crazy. You know. Yeah. And I would imagine that would be really scary to be like, I'm doing all these things to help my skin, and now you're telling me don't do those things.
And that's the awareness level that's shifting within our community as a whole, is that I don't, my clients don't, maybe you don't, we don't want the surface cover up anymore, and we don't want the wrong path. We want, okay, I want health, and I want happiness, and I want to feel good about myself, and I want confidence. Show me the way to get there. And so if you think about how technology and science, the internet, information availability has evolved, even 20 years ago, there wasn't a lot that we had access to like we do now. I mean, you type in anything and you have anything you want, and you have the information. So back then there was also a level, I don't say this as an insult, of ignorance. So it started in the very early 1800s that petroleum was introduced into skincare products. So one of your main, I call it just big brand companies, started with olive oil and rose petals, and then they introduced petroleum into it. Cheaply made, cheaply manufactured. Petroleum is one of the most boring compounds on the planet. It doesn't offer anything. And as I love my husband to pieces, he goes, so when I taught him, you know, if you think about it, clean, refined, distilled petroleum from the oil wells is going into skincare product, and then they tell you that this is healthy. He goes, things crawl in there to die. And so I love his awareness level and humor. So that was his take on it. He's like, things crawl in there to die. And then and that was it. So for me, I discovered with my work and my path and my own healing is there's going to be stagnation, or there's going to be renewal. A thought you have about yourself or about somebody or the day you're having, emotions you're holding in your mind, they're either going to stagnate you, or they're going, so just kind of stuck, or they're going to move you forward. Skincare ingredients are either going to stagnate the skin, and the majority, this is a broad blanket accurate statement, the majority of even natural products you find, conventional products, luxury products you find, they will stagnate the skin. And so what happens is you can peel it away, right? You can peel away the barrier, which traps more blood, which is old blood. If you're trapping old blood, you can't have new blood. If you don't have new blood, you don't have new cells, right? So for me, it's about accurate information starting at the skin function level. Once you have that, then we can start to build forth, okay, this is how we repair your skin. So taking away the salicylic, because white willow bark is your origin of salicylic acid, right? White willow bark, we're going into a natural earth-created element here. They take Earth's resources, big brand manufacturers, and then they process them, they refine them, they take away the essence of that renewability, and then they put in a product and they put it on a label. But then they fill it with filler because it fills the container and it provides a function for the product. So this product will feel silky. This product will feel like it's absorbing into the skin when it's really from an alcohol standpoint. Because if they add alcohol, it gives you a tingle and you think it's getting into your skin, but it's actually absorbing into the air, and then the alcohol will take away your natural moisture. And so what happens is that's the fallacy and the false hype that I'm referring to. And oh my God, did it explode, right? So from the 1800s, I think we're up to what, 250 billion for a conventional skincare industry profiting at least. Now we look at pharmaceuticals. Pharmaceuticals are the same compilation of the synthetics. If you get a prescription and you actually look at the ingredients, dead, 100% dead. Okay, so if it's made in the lab, I take yarrow extract, I take, lavender, calendula. You have these beautiful earth, alive essence ingredients, and they know that they're for a purpose. So whether you're drinking them, you're making a scrub out of them, you're putting them, as a serum, you're turning them into something, but you're keeping the life force. Once I start flash frying it, I overheat it, I boil it, you lose the essence of it. So there's a gentleness in the integrity of the sourcing, keeping the essence of that ingredient intact. And a dead product to me is dead because it has no heart, it has no essence, it has no renewal ability factor. And what you're saying about benzoyl peroxide, so we have the BPO, right? Benzoyl peroxide. That in itself dries up your natural oil glands, and you need oil for renewability. So, but if the skin is trapped and inflamed and it doesn't know how to renew, putting on more product that's made with plastic is actually going to inflame and trap the skin further, even though it might give you a temporary cover up, because it's actually the plastic clogging the pores when it says it won't. And then, so that's the surface cover up. It covers everything up and hides, but get a real organic facial, all that product's going to come out, all that cover up's going to come off, and then you're going to see the true state of the skin.
Interesting. So Melissa, you clearly take phenomenal care of your skin, but I'm curious, what other things do you do for your own health and well-being on a daily and weekly basis?
Okay, so this is this is where we have room to grow, where I need you guys. When my kids were born and all of the health and emotional turmoil started to surface, I had uterine atrophy, so where my uterus muscles were atrophied and I had no strength or like any control over there. So it's been this journey of just core strengthening my body, trying to get sleep.
Sure.
So I will say, before I had kids, I was much better about self-care, and I'm now on this path of walking my talk, where I've guided everybody. So this is an awareness light bulb moment for me right here as I'm standing in front of you guys. I need to consistently exercise every day, and I haven't done it in several years. So my boyfriend, my husband's kind of jealous because my metabolism, like doing the biodynamic feedback, I'm like a 12-year-old for my metabolism.
Oh, wow. Sure.
So I drink a ton of water. I do a ton of pea protein. I try to minimize dairy and the inflammatories for the gut. So I'm going through a gut repair plan right now. So I can't say that I exercise like crazy, because that would be lying. But I do meditate a ton. I do yoga, like stretching and opening my body and my mind. And then for me, I think it's about, my husband taught me this. It's like doing mirror work. And I don't think, he even knew who Louise Hay was, of Hay House, who really, she created the movement of mirror work, where you look in your eyes and then there's many different ways of doing this, but I like to just stare until something comes out. It could be past emotion, and it could be, oh my God, you're a rock star, you're amazing. So I like to do the mirror work, which really my husband turned me on to it. He's really the rock star of my life. But so doing the mirror work every day, lots of skin massage, which will go into, say, more Ayurveda and lymphatic drainage, traditional Chinese medicine techniques, where the more you massage, right, and if you're open to it and you're not trapping within the muscle and the fascia, the connective tissue, right, and you're not trapping in your pores, you can actually get to a depth of renewal with every massage you do. So lots of neck and face massages. At my clinic, I do have two wonderful ladies. Their company's called Enchanted Revival, and they do, cupping, deep tissue, lymphatic drainage. So I really indulge using them for my massages. So I get massages, I do meditation, very minimal exercise, which I'm going to change. I'm acknowledging to you guys and myself right now. And then just a ton of water, because of course, water, detoxing the body. Okay. Yeah, that's about it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
I love that you're very mindful about the things that you are doing, as far as what you're putting into your body, your mindset, the thoughts going through your head, and, stress management with the meditation and things like that, and making sure that you're staying hydrated. Those are all fantastic things. So for our listeners, if somebody is struggling with their skin, or they want to take their skin to the next level, what are some things that they could do? Do you have, 3 or so suggestions for them?
Well, let's say if you're ready, if you're truly ready, cut out the fake stuff, whether it's the fallacy of who and what you are. If you're lying to yourself about things, just stop the lie. look in the mirror and say, okay, I'm going to confess to myself. I'm going to be honest. This is what I've been doing to myself, whether I'm not getting enough sleep, I'm eating all this junk food, I'm having too many pops a day, I want to stop smoking, I want to start exercising. So just, it comes with facing yourself, because I feel like if you can't look in the mirror and you can't face yourself, you are totally hiding from potential. Because if we're all made with this immense, creativity and strength and potential and ability to help yourself so you can help other people, which I feel like you guys are the epitome of that, then you're missing out on beauty, this truth movement of who and what you are. And so by facing yourself, I think that's paramount. So in other words, don't hide, don't not look in the mirror. If you have skin issues or you can't look at your wrinkle, your brown spot, look at it and actually bring it loving attention for maybe the first time. So that's going to be the first thing. The second thing is cut out the synthetics, cut out the junk, because that gets held in your body, right? And it might get held in the pores, the outermost layer of your body, but it's still held within your body, and it does seep into the bloodstream. You have manufacturers telling you they can make these products because they don't know how much gets into the blood, but they make patches, right? They make hormone patches, nicotine patches. So clearly the manufacturers and big organizations are aware that this does get into the blood. It does change hormone levels, right? So we want to start to healthify the body and let it detox itself, which it can do when it's not overweighed down with fake stuff, synthetics, dead ingredients that actually aren't bringing it nutritional energy, nutritional food. So I would say topically, remove the synthetics. And if it's so scary and it really is a myriad of options where it's like, okay, well now I'm in a new stress mode because, okay, what do I use? Just start with a basic oil, like jojoba oil, apricot oil, and this will have more activity in one oil that you could get, at a facial boutique or skin store aisle than any of the dead stuff.
That's awesome.
Okay.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, Melissa, how can our listeners connect with you? Let's say they are local or they want to fly in. How can they learn more about you and schedule something with you?
Just cleanseintruth.com. So cleanse like washing your face. Nice. In truth is just like walking in your truth. So cleanseintruth.com. That's really the best way to just get a hold of us, and you can just send a message right there.
That's fantastic. Do you have social media at all?
I do. So Facebook is Cleanse in Truth Skincare, and then I believe I'm Melissa Armstrong 23 on Instagram, which of course you can link there. So
awesome, right on.
Yeah.
Well, listeners, definitely check her out on Instagram, on Facebook, and via her website as well. So Melissa, for our listeners, for those that may want to connect with you, do you have any kind of promotion or discount that they might be able to receive through listening through this podcast?
There's actually a fantastic promotion going on. There is a $105 first client facial offer with no consultation fee. So they can come see me, get the education, have a renewal session for $105.
Very cool. That's awesome. And what's the deadline on this?
Through the end of January.
I love it. Right on. For our listeners, you contact Melissa in the next couple of weeks. We'll get you in there for 105. That will be fantastic. And Melissa, the question that we always like to wrap up with for all of our guests is, what is your definition of health?
It's going to be a collective aligning of the different parts of you. So the different parts of me. Do I have my emotional health? Do I have my mental health? Do I have my spiritual connectivity health? Something, I believe made me. Am I feeling that divine purpose within me? Do I have that passion? So I will say it's a balance, right? Like that pie chart. It's a balance, and I want it to be as balanced as possible. But even when it's not, I feel that if you are confident and secure with who you are at that core, right? At that core level, that means there could be chaos going on around you and you feel secure in who you are. You have this peace within you. So for me, a new level of health is feeling peaceful, content in that present moment, because then I'm not bringing my past into my future or in my present moment, and then I'm not worried about the future. So I'm not worried. So I'm just present and I'm content. I will say that's going to be the utmost pillar of health for me is going to be that I feel confident within myself. And if we say myself, if you're not feeling good about yourself, I'm going to give you one takeaway, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's because it's not you. You are holding on to thoughts, beliefs, ideas, concepts, words, things that have been told to you that aren't you. They were passed on to you from somebody else and their pain and their insecurity. And once you let go of all those people, then you can say, what do I want and how do I want to live my life for purpose, passion, power, making a difference with myself so then I can be a catalyst for change for others.
That is beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that, for sharing your entire story with us. It was just fantastic. We really, really appreciate you sharing your expertise and your time with us. So
you guys are amazing.
Thank you,
for
Melissa.
having me.
Our pleasure. And for our listeners, who do you know that needs to hear this episode? Who do you know that needs to take advantage of the deal that Melissa is offering you all? Share this episode with them so they can learn about the work that Melissa is doing and get connected with her as well. And while you're at it, if you wouldn't mind leaving us a rating and review on iTunes, we always greatly, greatly appreciate it. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. Have a fantastic week, and we'll talk with you all next week.